All right, welcome to Drew Code Sports Talk. We're going to be talking on this one here, college football, that is the carousel of college football. We have a lot of stuff that is going on right now. The first thing I wanted to get to was the whole Greg Schiano thing, and I kind of want to touch base on, if you don't know what happened, basically Greg Schiano was defense coordinator of Ohio State, was hired by Tennessee to be the head coach. Students, alumni, fans of all sort went on social media, basically said Greg Schiano is a piece of you-know-what, and didn't want him to be the head coach. The reasoning behind it is he was an assistant head coach or coach on Penn State during the whole Jerry Sandusky ordeal.
Right.
And so a lot of people said that, he knew something about it, and so they didn't want him to be the head coach at Tennessee.
Right.
So now he is not the head coach. He is the defensive coordinator still at Ohio State.
Not a bad gig, though.
Yeah, I guess. So what are your thoughts on it? I mean, how do you feel about it?
Well, it's a really unfortunate because Schiano has had multiple coaching opportunities after the whole Penn State thing. Because realistically, that whole Penn State ordeal was kind of when Schiano was really starting to come up in the coaching ranks, so to speak. When he was there, and plus he was an assistant of an assistant. Both of those two, which were completely dismissed as far as knowing any sort of knowledge. When he works for Urban Meyer, you don't think he would have some sort of knowledge. When the Buccaneers hire him, you don't think they would have done due diligence, knowing where he came from. I think it was just a knee-jerk reaction. There's just an outcry, and I think it was more so if he was guilty by association, even though there was no evidence that said that he knew anything or had anything to do with it, for that matter. I just think this is really unfortunate. I think he would have been a good coach. I think Tennessee's lost out on a good one, but I'm sure he'll find something. The Florida job's still open, but he's still with Urban Meyer and Ohio State. Their defense isn't too bad. So we'll see. I just think that Tennessee just made the wrong decision, and I think it's unfortunate for him.
I agree. I think they made the wrong decision. I did want to bring up that I feel like it was great that everyone, all the fans, went to social media to say, oh, hey, we don't want this. That's rare that you see a fan of one team just all come together as one and say, no, or yes, whatever it was.
Right.
In this case, obviously, it was no, we don't want him there.
Right.
I think that was really cool to see because you don't see that nowadays. Everyone fights over everything. And so I think it was really cool to see that. Do I agree with the decision? No. I feel like Greg Schiano got his name dragged through the mud. I feel like Greg Schiano got a raw end of the deal. Any other cliches you can think of. Greg Schiano got screwed. It sucks, and like you said, guilty by association. I don't know about you. When I was a teen, when my parents were like, you can't hang out with him because he's a bad influence, and I was like, it doesn't mean I'm doing that.
Right.
It pissed me off to the core, and I feel like that's kind of how I feel in this instance is Greg Schiano was exactly what you said, was guilty by association.
Right.
And I don't think it's all right. So Chip Kelly was hired by UCLA as the new head coach. Does it work in UCLA with Chip Kelly? And should he have gone to Florida instead of UCLA?
I know that Florida looks more attracting just because in recent years they've been kind of going through this phase where they look good and they're not looking good.
SEC.
I think for that reason as well. I think UCLA was a better fit. The location is better. I think the name is a little bit bigger as far as the athletes you're going to get. Although with his previous stint with Oregon, we kind of know where he's going to go with as far as his recruits for more of the high-flying, widespread offense. It's not going to be the more old school the way that Mora was when he left. So it'll be more of a Chip Kelly offense, really fast-paced. Yeah. No time management, really. Maybe no defense, depends on where he throws out these scholarships. I don't think that he'll be like a championship or playoff contending kind of a team unless they expand it to 6 teams. But I see him in top 10, maybe. And I think it'll take about 2 years before it actually starts to come to fruition. Get a couple of starters back, get a couple of upperclassmen to return if he doesn't lose a lot of sophomores or anything like that. But I think it's a good move. We'll see. I don't think he'll be championship, though.
You stole my answer with the whole Jim Mora Jr. Well, I agree. I think UCLA was the right move for him, and basically because this is kind of how I look at it. SEC is the old school football, and that's why everyone in the South still loves it. They're like, oh, defense and the run game, and you don't have to have the best quarterback and the, whatever.
Right.
And then you go to Pac-12 where it's new age, where it's fast-paced. Everyone's doing kind of the no-huddle now.
Right.
And Chip Kelly is kind of the guy who started that for the Pac-12 there at Oregon. I mean, Dennis Dixon. Does anyone remember him? Yeah, he was the quarterback for Oregon. He was drafted by Pittsburgh.
I forgot where he was even drafted.
And hasn't done anything since.
Then you got Mariota.
I'm sure he's probably back in Oregon. But and then Marcus Mariota was a little bit well known, and he's doing his thing in the NFL. But you kind of have a new age type of team. And so when you talk about the Pac-12, even though it sounds kind of silly, like why wouldn't it work in the SEC? It's not that it wouldn't work in the SEC, it's that he's more comfortable in the Pac-12. And UCLA...
So less competition.
Yeah, and UCLA is a well-known school. I mean, it's probably the more popular... I would say... it's the more popular school all around. Like, you're not just talking about just football, because I would say USC in that matter.
Right.
But UCLA is well known all around. Everyone knows UCLA. And so Chip Kelly going there, he's going to get a lot, probably even better recruits than he got over at Oregon. And you talk about things that you can tell, like you're recruiting kids. Look at what we have in LA.
Right.
Everything. So,
all this trouble you can get into.
Yes. Even though you probably don't want to pitch that, but
no.
Hey. And so I think it works in UCLA, and I think you say 2 years, I actually think it'll take 3 to 4 years. Usually I say give a head coach 3 years to actually develop what he wants, especially in college. The fourth year will probably be the best year. So that's my prediction. Doesn't mean I'm right. I'm just saying that's how I've always looked at it.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Alabama loses to Auburn just before the SEC championship game starts. Does Alabama get in the college football playoff?
Roll Tide, no. They don't. No, you know what? I don't think so. That I was hearing from the talk radio that really the only chance that Alabama has is if Ohio State beats Clemson, which then kind of defaults Ohio State getting into the top 4 because they lost to a really average Iowa team that really they can't look past. And really, Bama had one loss against Auburn, who they always have a tough run with them when they play in the Iron Bowl. However, I mean, this may be the first year that we don't see them in any sort of contention at all. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they were the 5th team and they're the ones looking in. That's if the top 4 teams win out. But no, I don't think that they'll make it. I think that they'll be on the outside. I think this will be the only year they're on the outside, and I think that they will get in next year. But this is not the year for them.
Well, I'm actually kind of surprised you said no. I think there's a possibility that they don't get in. It's kind of hard to think that Alabama is not going to get in because I know that everyone wants to say that the committee is unbiased. They create where you got to be a conference champion, blah blah blah. But I feel like if you see Alabama, you're going to be like, well, it's Nick Saban. I feel like the committee is going to figure out a way to get Alabama in. Now, the way that they're going to get Alabama in, though, is Auburn has to lose in the SEC championship. If Auburn wins, I don't feel like you can put Alabama in there. I just don't think you can. But
Auburn owns a win over Bama. That's why.
That's what I'm saying. So if Auburn wins, then Auburn's going in the playoff and Alabama's out. But if Auburn loses to Georgia, Alabama has that win over Georgia, and I feel like they're going to say, okay, Bama, you're in. And I feel like they're going to take out Georgia. Do I believe that's right? No, because I know they want to say that the playoff is for the 4 best teams in the country. And I agree that it's a lot better than BCS, no question about it. I've always been a candidate for let's make an 8 playoff team because
8
team playoff because you bring in the Wisconsins, the UCFs. Yes, I understand that those schools are obviously not as good as like an Alabama school, but you don't know, because remember when everyone kept saying in the VCS era, Boise State, they are terrible. Boise State can't play with the big dogs. They went to the Sugar Bowl, played Oklahoma, and beat them in a Oklahoma basically fan stadium.
Right.
And so I feel like you have to give the little guys at least a shot. Now, I'm not saying because, Fresno State, if they won the Mountain West, they should go into it.
Right.
No, obviously, Fresno State already lost to Alabama.
Yeah.
So, even if they were like 12-1, and it was between them and Alabama, I understand Bama should get in.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if you make the 18 playoff, you make them bring in teams that may not look as good. Everyone was talking about Wisconsin. They shouldn't get in just because they're undefeated. Their schedule sucks. Yeah, their schedule may have been bad, but then all of a sudden you see these wins pile up and you're saying this team is actually pretty good. That's just my...
Like Michael Smith of ESPN said, not everyone gets a VIP pass.
All right, guys, so please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are Drew Code Sports Talk. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is also, evidently, Drew Code Sports Talk.